screen just to make sure that it's okay to record. Just please hit accept, or if you're uncomfortable, you're more than welcome to leave and watch the recording later. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started. This is Michael. Really quickly, Michael and I have been working together for almost 4 years. We're at like 3.5 mark now. And he has helped out on a ton of Wounded Warrior Project events. He's hosted events for us. We've utilized his gym in the past, and he's just he is like the human walking of fitness and mobility. He's got a ton of information, not just with what we're going to talk about today. He's helped out a lot of warriors through some of their specific pain and mobility, specific local warriors in person. So I'm really excited to hand it over to him. You guys have a lot of awesome knowledge, and yeah, make sure to use the Q&A feature for questions. All right, Michael, I'm officially going to stop talking now.
All right, that's me.
Go for it.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Michael Skog. I used to own a really sweet gym, and then COVID killed it. And that's where I did a lot of hosting, and I hosted Wounded Warrior events, and I miss it. So I have the pleasure of borrowing a friend's gym to bring this to you now, and I brought in my backdrop just so it felt a little more like home for me. I am a neuromuscular therapist. I'm also a strength and conditioning coach, and I've been in that realm for a long time. But my education is neuromuscular, and I started my career, my run, in a clinical setting, and I went into the sports world. I worked Division I, had a gym, used it as a test kitchen, developed programs, and gym died. And now I'm back in the clinical realm again, and I've been there about 2 years. And quite honestly, it was a really nice change because I started injuring myself, and I got a wrist brace on right now. This isn't gonna get in the way. Just wanted to let you know, I also had a knee replacement about 4 months ago. So I understand what it's like to age and be frustrated with not doing what you used to do. So, you know, for any of you that are tuning into this and you don't feel like you're getting enough, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. I'm sure Joanna will make my contact information available to you, but reach out to me. I work with a lot of people. You don't have to be local either. I do a lot of stuff through FaceTime and email and text messaging and things of that nature. So I can always shoot you a video, and I'm just here to help. You guys are my people. I do this for military, I do it for police officers, and I do it for firefighters. So this is just my way of giving back, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. So enough of that. Today we're going to talk about sciatica, which is a big problem. It's a big problem for America, not just you guys. But now I know that that standing on steel decks or doing forced marches or wearing a ruck and all that weight on the low back can play hell on your body. And maybe you don't feel it at the time, but down the road you will, because we have shelf lives. And maybe some of you are figuring out what that shelf life is. Maybe some of you have been deep into that already, but I want to show you some tricks on how to A, mitigate pain, and B, how to set a maintenance program in place so you don't have to deal with this. Sciatica can be miserable. I know that. Low back pain, man, when your back hurts, you don't want to do anything. So for me or for anybody to ask you to exercise and, oh, I'll do this and do that, and that's a big ask. So that's why we're going to go about it in 2 different steps: mitigate the pain, and then show you how to run a maintenance project or program project. You got the email. So I'm going to use a kettlebell today for part of it. And I have an 18-pounder. You don't need one that heavy. Really 10 to 20 pounds is kind of the range. That's the sweet spot. If you're a little lighter than 10 pounds, you have to do work. If you're heavier than 20, the body has a tendency to guard. So too heavy is not a good thing, because the last thing you want is guarding. You want the body to relax and submit. We're going to use a trigger point ball. Now, that's what this is, but you can use a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball. I wouldn't use a golf ball. It's a little too small and it's a little less forgiving. But this is a really great way to attack a lot of pain in our body. Now, some of you have probably been privy to this for some time now, but I want to show you the right way to use this. You can lay on a knot and mash it down until it goes away, but does it ever really go away? It really doesn't. In fact, typically what happens is we just send a signal to the area to deaden it or dull it, and then we walk away thinking, okay, fixed, but the problem isn't fixed. So I'm going to show you the proper way to use a trigger point ball. I've got a yoga block here. You don't need a yoga block. I just recommend something that's about 4 inches in width, compressed 4 inches. So that means you can use a rolled up towel or a pillow, as long as when you squeeze it down, it gives you that dimension. And I have a couple different types of belts here. This one I'm a big fan of because it's a quick adjust, quick disconnect. I use this at work a lot because I deal with a lot of different size patients. Then of course you've got a yoga belt, yoga strap. Maybe some of you are using this. Maybe you're just using a web belt or any kind of belt. Doesn't really matter. It's not about the equipment. It's about the intent, right? So let's talk about why these things occur. I see roughly 15 patients a day, which is a pretty good caseload. And what that does is that brings me a variety throughout my week. So, I mean, I'm chalking up some numbers by week's end, and just about everybody's different. So to tell you that this is a one size fits all thing, that's not the case. I'm going to rely on you to do a little exploration on finding spots, and that's really what I'm referring to, or how you move. I'm going to guide you and I'm going to give you the map, but you might need to veer off course a little bit to find your way. I've got a model here. Maybe you know anatomy, maybe you don't, but I'm going to treat you all like you don't. Sorry about that. This is the psoas muscle. This is the iliacus, and this one right here is the piriformis, okay? And then the QL. All of these are players in angering that sciatic nerve. That's what this nerve root is right here. Now I have a diagram that I drew up, and Joanna, I don't know if you're going to put this up on screen, but what I did is I just took all these areas and I put it into one drawing. I also put in glute med there as well, because these are muscles we're going to go after. We're going to release these things, and then in that state of release, we're going to facilitate or activate our glute max. And by doing so, you'll hold the progress you made. So the glute max is one of 3 muscles that make up your glutes. So you got the max, you got the medius, and you got the minimus. By the time we reach about 35, the butt kind of forgets its job, because at this point, unless you're really active, and I mean moving and being really conscious of your backside, the butt thinks it's just something to sit on, because most of us sit at desks, right? Or we're sitting in cars for long periods of time, and the glute max loses its wiring. So all we're going to do is we're just going to re-educate. We're going to do neuro re-education is what we're going to do. We're going to turn the butt back on. Now, what happens when the glute max turns off is the glute med kicks in, the piriformis kicks in, and it's almost like they're the backup plan. When that occurs, getting that max back on can be a trick because you got to get the other two off for that to occur. And I'm going to show you how to do that. The piriformis. The piriformis is that muscle, that nasty muscle, and I'm sure plenty of you have done the piriformis stretch, or you've sat on a trigger point ball to get rid of a knot in your piriformis, and it just doesn't ever stay away. You can get it to go away for a minute, but it always returns. Well, what we do today is hopefully gonna keep that from returning. I want your relief window to be big. Now, really the way the rehab model goes is first time you might not hit a home run, okay? Let's just get on base. It might take you 3 or 4 goes at this before you are pain-free, before you can walk around and say, what sciatica? What back pain? My hips feel great. So be diligent. Stick to it. This will work. It's worked for lots of people before this seminar, and it'll continue to work. Now, I created a handout for you guys to follow as a frame of reference. We're going to follow that handout, but we're going to do it at the end. So let's get into getting rid of some trigger points, all right? So I'm going to start at the psoas. And real quick, the psoas starts at the bottom of the ribs, right? Floating rib cage. I want you guys to go right about the belly button. That's going to be your landmark to locate. You're going to go to the belly button and just fall to the side where the love handle dives into the abs. And now I'm going to back up. I'm going to take my glasses off, and we're going to go there. And I want to warn you, this feels really lousy. In fact, it feels so lousy, you might have a hard time believing that it's good for you. Stick it out. This could take a 2-minute window to release. It could take 4 minutes, but hang in there until it goes away. All right, so here we go. I'm going to back up so I am framed well, and I'm going to lie on my back. Now, I talked about using the belly button as your landmark. So my belly button here, I have like this little notch where my oblique dives into my abs. And I'm going to set that ball right in that crease. And then I'm going to take my bell or my weight or whatever you have, and I'm going to set it on top. Now, my force vector isn't straight down into the floor. I want it down and in because essentially we're going to pin it against the spine. So I set my bell in place, and you'll know if you have it. Now I've got my head up just because I can see the camera, but I want you to relax. Relax as much of your body as you possibly can. Now this leg, you can go ahead and straighten the other leg, but the leg, the side the ball is on, is that knee is going to be bent. So what I want you to do now is start moving that knee in and out and go nice and slow. The quicker you go, the more agitated you make the area. And really what we're doing when we move this knee is we're cross-fibering against that large psoas muscle. And that muscle is like a tenderloin. It's thick and it's ropey. And if it's been active on you for a long time, which I'm going to guess it has, unless you've done this, it's going to take some doing to get through it. So we're moving that knee in and out. It'll go from feeling like real acute pain to it's going to dull down a little bit, and then it's just going to be pressure. And once it's pressure, boom, it's released. It's done. So I'm going to lay here and I'm going to do a couple more passes.
Hey, Michael, as you're doing that, do you mind just really quickly picking up the weight and showing where the ball is? I think people were a little confused of where the ball went.
Okay, So I'm setting the weight on top of the ball. Man, I should have wore a red shirt, right? So here's my ball. I'm setting that weight on top. Everybody see it?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, so now I am down and in again with that knee movement. Is this angle better?
1,000% better. Yeah, I couldn't see the ball either. It got sucked in.
All right. Okay, so once you get that to release, again, it'll go from feeling really crappy to feeling like nothing at all except a little bit of pressure. Then we're going to go inside the iliac crest. So right here, right where your hip bone, where you can feel. So you trace that hip bone right until you find a little notch or a little pocket. You're going to use that bone like a backstop. So our first go at this was pinning it against the spine. Well, now we're going to pin it against the wing of your pelvis. Now I'm going to get back into position again for this. So let me see if I can show you. Yeah, this works better. So I'm using that wing as a backstop. My bell goes on top, and now my pressure is down and out. Before, my pressure was down and into the spine, and now I'm down and out. So I'm going to, with this bent knee, and I don't know if you noticed, but I switched legs. I don't want you to switch legs, not yet. My knee is bent. I'm going to slowly slide that leg into extension. And right about there, it gets really spicy. So that really feels lousy. Relieve the pressure a little bit. So I lift the bell, I bend my knee, and I drive it back into place. Always, always, always exhale when you are. Actually, I'm just going to tell you to deep breathe through this. You deep breathe through this, and you're going to force everything to relax. If you or hold your breath, things don't relax. So again, slide that leg into extension. And just like this other spot on the psoas, this is the iliacus or the iliopsoas. This will go from feeling real acute with a real nasty bite to just pressure. And mine is about gone. And I'm going to do one more just for good measure. All right. So, psoas and iliopsoas, done. Well, for demonstration purposes, they're done. Now we're going to go to the glute med and the piriformis. How long and often per day? Good question. I didn't touch on that. So this is something that I wouldn't do more than twice a week. All right. Do it once a day, twice a week. The reason is too much and you're going to bruise. And now you have a different issue to deal with. So we want to avoid that. And it's a practice that I would make a part of my routine. And let's say twice a week, you're not really feeling it like you did the first time around. So maybe you drop down to once a week and you just kind of check in and use it like a tune-up. Oh, my back is hurting. Let me check my psoas and my iliopsoas. Chances are you're gonna gain some ground. All right. So now we're gonna go to the QL. The quadratus lumborum is this guy right here. It sits on the back side of the psoas. So the psoas is deep in the stomach, as you noticed. The QL sits on the backside and it's towards the surface of the body. So it's a superficial muscle. But this is typically where we get our pain signal from. People go, oh, my back hurts. Where's it hurt? Right here. It's my QL. Well, it is your QL, but your QL is just responding to psoas and iliacus. So it gets recruited, and that's what the body does. The body recruits other muscles to splint or to protect, to guard. And when it does that, what it does is it takes away your mobility and your ability to move around and continue to further that injury. So it's a really smart thing, but it also sucks at the same time, because now you're not just dealing with one issue. You got to peel an onion to get to the success story. So we're going after the iliacus, the QL. Now, what I want you to do is you're going to place the ball right here, right where you feel that wing of your pelvis hit your spine. And this is going to be pretty sharp. So be ginger about it. I'm going to kind of sneak into it. We don't need the weight for this. We're going to use body weight. So here's my spine. I'm going just off my spine. There's a nice little pocket that ball can sit in. I'm going to roll onto the ball. I'm going to bear down, and I'm going to pull my knee to my chest. I'm exhaling as I do this. I'm relaxing. And then I'm going to roll off, drop my leg, roll back on. Here we go again. Now you want to pull your knee enough so it affects the position of your innominate on your pelvis, and that's the wing, okay? So you want that wing to actually move this way. It's like a rotational movement, and what we're really doing is we're just stretching that hip by pulling the knee to the chest. Again, I roll off, drop my leg, roll back on, right back into it. For this one now, I'm going to assign a number. I would do 5 to 8 passes. Too many, and you're going to find that, oh, it's feeling good, and now it doesn't feel so good. Oh, let me do another one. Oh, it feels worse. I'm going to do another one. It feels worse yet. So there is kind of a little trick to this one. So 5 to 8 reps is a pretty good number to give up to the QL. All right. So we covered psoas, iliacus, and QL. Now we're going to cover the 2 big biters. The glute med first. The glute med is a high riding muscle. So here's my max. My med is right here. You'll find it because it's going to be angry. It's going to be angry on just about everybody in the world, especially if you stand up a lot or if you're over 35. We're going to take that ball, and what I want you to do is, for location, let's go to the hip. You're going to feel like this bony prominence sticking out. That's your greater trochanter. That's this bony prominence right here. Okay. I don't know if you can see that. I'll show you a better angle. So what we're going to do is we're going to go just up. We want to get inside of this pelvis wing. So we're going to place that ball as close to the front without rolling off that anterior edge. So I take my ball. Oh, yeah, this one's ugly. Now, you can't see the ball, but believe me, it's there. With this leg, same side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my knee towards my chest and then pull it slightly across my center line. This puts that glute med on stretch. Then I'm going to relax, relieve pressure, drop my leg back on. We're going to do 5 to 8 passes. So you look for the bite. Everybody find the bite? I'm going to assume that's a yes. I grab my knee. I pull it to my chest. and then I pull it across my center line. That pass felt better. And it should be like that for this muscle. This is one of those muscles that gives you, it scales your performance actually. So if I'm making progress on this, I'm going to know because it's going to feel a little better with each pass. So here's my third pass. Now I found a new spot because that one hurt as much as the first pass. And that's what before I talked about the one size fits all. Well, I want you to explore. So if you're on a hot spot, don't think that's the only hot spot in your body in that area. So you can move that ball around and explore. So I pull the knee to my chest, then I cross. And once you do 2 more of those, I saw a question pop up. I don't know if that was handled.
Yeah, you're solid, Michael. We have a lot of people, some people are commenting about how it feels. Yeah, if anyone else wants to chime in and say, if you can't feel it, if you can feel it, please chime in because we have Michael now. So feel free to give feedback.
Okay. All right, cool. So glute med. For all of these, we have matching sets. Let me see. Oh, man, I need my glasses. I can feel it for sure. Good. Yeah. Make no mistake. When you're on it, it's going to let you know. Okay. So now we're going to go after the piriformis. Piriformis is the one that every PT you speak to, every ortho, any chiropractor, they're going to say, oh, you have sciatica? Let's stretch that piriformis. Yeah, that's good advice, but that's like a fifth of the advice you need to hear. So we're going after the piriformis last. We're going after it last because we worked our way down. I don't know if you noticed that, but we started high and we're going to end low. The piriformis is this one right here. This one also attaches to the greater trochanter. All right. This is a great landmark for a lot of muscles. And it's a really easy one to find on everybody because it's that bone that sticks out in your hip. We don't have too many areas in our body where there's like a landmark as prominent as this one. So this is a really good one. Even though it's a bad one for the purpose we're using it. This is not an anatomy class. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my greater trochanter, okay? Find that bone. We're gonna go just inside that bone. So towards your butt crack. Butt crack, that's a technical term. That's a clinical term. I'm gonna roll onto that ball. This one really sucks too. We're gonna do a clamshell. Now, maybe you've done a clamshell where you're laying on your side and your leg is moving up and down like so, but we're gonna do it the reverse. So you're laying on it and I want you to move that bottom knee away from the floor. Yeah, 5 to 8 passes and don't go too fast. I want you to go slow because the idea is not only do we want to break this knot up and we're cross fibering it essentially with a ball, but we want to not anger, that's the wrong word. We want to piss off our brain because this is really a nervous system reset. So the brain is telling that muscle to move and we're pinning it at its insertion point. The insertion point of a muscle is where the action occurs, all right? So we're pinning it at the insertion point and we're trying to prevent it from moving. So it's not going through its natural lengthening and shortening process that muscles do, like the bicep, shorten, lengthen, shorten, lengthen. Same thing here, we're getting it to shorten and lengthen. Now, if it can't hit the limits like it naturally should, the nervous system, it just gets overloaded and boom, it shuts it off. And that means it relaxes. So then we have all this nice, you guys, I don't know if you took the time and you hit all these spots while we ran through this, but if you didn't, I want to encourage you after we're done here to go back and redo it, because when you stand up, you're going to feel taller. You're going to feel taller and you're going to feel like your hips opened up and your chest lifted up, because what happens is when this thing gets fired up, it pulls your body into forward flexion because it's shortening. That psoas is shortening. Then it sticks to the iliacus because it's recruiting muscles to splint. All right, so it sticks, and then what it does is it pulls the hips in, like so. This piriformis gets short, and now because it's shortening, the leg wants to do this, but it can't, so it just plays tug of war. So we're playing tug of war here and here, and this wins. Man, this is a really strong muscle. This is your second line of defense. When the back goes, this kicks in. When your abs stop doing their job, this kicks in. When the hips get tight, this kicks in. You catching it? So there's a lot of kicking in that this muscle does. When the glutes forget their job, the glute max, this thing kicks in and picks up the slack. So this is a really important muscle. It's also a really aggravating muscle, because the only way you can get this thing to release or give you any kind of relief from pain is going through the abdominal wall and getting that thing to relax through pressure and a little bit of movement. You can stretch it all day long, but it's not going to respond. It's just going to snap back. I'm telling you, it's thick. It's like a tenderloin. It's a very important muscle, and it crosses the waist and it crosses the hip crease. So it goes through two major joints. So it's a big deal. This thing, I wish that this was part of basic training. I wish this was part of boot camp, how to get rid of this, because this would solve a lot of problems, a lot of long-term problems that are happening in the short term. So this is good stuff. This is not 101 stuff. This is some 400 level shit here. So I'm glad that I'm able to share this with you. It'll change your life. So here's my sciatic nerve root, right? Comes out of the sacrum. Well, this thing feeds, I'm going to see if you can see it, but it feeds back there. It gets pinched by the piriformis and all these other nerve roots, because it's going to pick up at L4, L5, so down low. This thing gets sucked in tight to the spine, so you're getting it from two big players, and then this kicks in to lock it in place, and this kicks in to lock it in place as well. And you just have this nasty tug of war going on, and nobody wins. No, well, psoas wins. Psoas wins. But it's not a win. It's not a victory. Believe me. All right. So, will this also help the pelvic floor? No, it won't. But I have pelvic floor tricks as well. Is that Priscilla? You know, reach out. Like I said at the beginning of this webinar, reach out to me. I'll give you guys all kinds of stuff. You'll be drinking from a fire hose by the time I'm done. Okay. How about, let me see. I don't know about anyone else, but yeah. All right. So here we go.
Really quickly, Michael, we had a great question, and at some point, it doesn't have to be just now, but before we wrap up today, if you could show ball placement on the body, just kind of a close-up of like where the ball should be placed in certain parts of the back, just to give another visual instead of using the skeleton. Does that make sense?
On the skeleton?
Not on the skeleton. Like if you could place the ball on the parts of your body so that people can kind of figure out where to put it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So In fact, I'll do that now because we're about to step into the exercise part of this, or actually the mobility part of this. All right, I'm going to back this up a little bit so I have some room. All right, so belly button, psoas. My hip. So my pelvic, that bone right there, boom, right there. My glute med. So I use that bump, that greater trochanter. Remember, I showed you on the model here. So we find that bump, and for the glute med, we're just going to go up about 2 inches and just inside that 2-inch travel. So we're going up 2, over 2, set the ball there for the glute med. And even just doing that, I can push on this spot with this ball, and it's got some bite. It hurts. So if that's the case for you, you're on the target. You're in the right spot. Okay. So then we're going to go back to that bump, that greater trochanter, and we're just going to fall in towards the butt crack. Oh. And a great way to tell or determine if you're in the right spot is roll that ball across the tissue. If it feels like a rope or a knot, you're there. You know, plus you have the feedback, the pain feedback as well. One thing about pain, if pain, let me see, I missed that question. If pain is in place, healing doesn't take place. The body really, it partitions off focus or energy. So if I've got a pain cycle that's just keeping me in this chronic state, your body is not mending itself. So you got to deal with pain. That's why most physical therapy, unless you're post-orthopedic procedure, most physical therapy doesn't work. Well, it works, but it takes a long time. It takes diligence, because man, you got to push through a lot of pain. You know, a lot of physical therapists are called physical terrorists because you just don't want to go see them. You don't want to see them. What I do is I work in an acute care clinic, so I'm handling people that come in with bad pain, and my job is to dial that pain down immediately. I'm not going to give you a program where you come in and see me and have faith that in 3 months from now, you're going to be doing better. You walk out of my clinic, you're going to be doing better. That's just the way it is. There's exercise and movement that goes with it as well. So I do not want to diminish the value to that. But getting out of pain is first and foremost for everybody. You could tell me that, oh, if you do this, you know, for the next 50 days without fail, and you're not going to feel anything until the 51st day, you're not going to feel any change in your pain level, I'm probably not going to do it. I'm probably not, because the pain is so bad. The last thing I want to do is exacerbate it with movement. All right.
I am so sorry to do this, Michael. So I had left myself unmuted and my screen popped up. So half of the time that you were showing the movement, where the ball located, no one could see that. So could you just one more time quickly go through? I apologize. I'm going to mute myself right now. So yes, everybody, I apologize. Pay attention one more time. Repeatability is great, right? You get to another dose of it. All right, I'm going to unmute myself, or mute myself, sorry.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Everybody got me? All right. So practice makes perfect, right? Right. Okay. Let me adjust this. So psoas. I go just to the side of my belly button, right where that oblique or that love handle dives in. You can see that little crease. That's where I place the ball. My pressure is down and in towards my spine. My iliacus is right where my pelvis wing, where I can feel it break through the front of my body. I'm going to go inside. I'm going to use it like a backstop. It's like a natural cup anyway. So now my pressure is down and out. So I use that bony prominence to actually hold and guide the ball. For my glute med, I go to my greater trochanter, that bump. I talked about it on my model. I'm going to go up about 2 inches, boom, boom, and in about 2, right there. And if you push, it should smart, okay? So that's my glute med. Back to my greater trochanter. I'm going just inside, so I'm falling just off that bump, and I'm on the piriformis. And that's the culprit that really puts the squeeze on your sciatic nerve. The other ones are players. The other one locks sciatica in place, and also tight hips, painful hips, tight back, painful back. And then there's the QL. Can't forget that one, because that is, that's the low back, the lumbar spine. So we follow the iliac crest right until it hits the spine. There's a nice little pocket right there. I'm going to set the ball in that pocket. This one is it's pretty spicy and it's close to the spine. So I want you to err on the side of caution. So start maybe a little further away from the spine initially and work your way in. I don't want you to go directly on the spine. You can pick up a spinous process or a transverse process and actually throw your SI joint out. And I'm sure everybody's experienced that. That's no picnic. All right. Cool.
We're great. Thank you for doing that.
Yes. All right. Now to our handout. We're going to use our blocks and straps. You got it. Now I'm going to start on my back rather than on my stomach, because it's a little easier for one, and then you'll kind of get a feel for what I'm asking about or asking you to do. I place the block between my knees and I relax. So head on the floor. What I want you to do is I want you to squeeze your knees together in a pulsing manner. So it's squeeze, 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 like so. Give me 30 of those. So you're just squeezing that block. Keep the body quiet. I've seen people do this because they want to squeeze the hell out of this thing and crush it. I don't know. Maybe it's a competitive thing. I don't know what it is. But keep your body quiet and just pulse. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. All right, you're going to feel your adductors, which is your inner thigh, and you're going to feel your high hip on this one. All right, so after 30 of those, then we're going to take our belt I'm going to place it around the knees, and I want you to set it up so your knees and your hips are on the same line. Now I'm going to press outward, same way. Press, 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 press. 30 times. This one fires the glute max. So what we are after with all of this is our end goal is turning the glute max on. That way, everything you just did with the trigger point ball will hold, and it will also further you down that progress path. And progress is what this is about. That's why we're doing this part now. All right, so 3 times through that. Squeeze the block. I'm going to do it one more time through. So block at the knees, and I'm squeeze, 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 squeeze. Again, relax. My head's up so I can see you. Actually, see me. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. 30 of those, and then I'm back to a press. My pressure out. Press, 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 press. Pretty simple. Now we're going to go to the stomach. This is a little trickier. Set up ahead of time for this one. The belt is going to go around the ankles for this one. And again, I want alignment. Hips, knees, ankles, same plane. Block is going to go between the ankles as well. So I'm going to do, let me just slip this for ease so I'm not going back and forth to reattach it to myself and then take it off, and I'm just going to leave it at the knees. I'm going to, let's see if I can pull this off. Oh, I just had knee surgery, so kneeling is tough for me. But what you can do is, in a kneeling position, set that block between your ankles, grab it, and then drop to the floor. My legs, my knees are bent at 90. All right, I want your heels as close to your butt as possible. Same drill. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Squeezing those ankles together on that block 30 times. When you're done, set it down. We slip. Belt to the ankles. Toes are flexed. Press, 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 press. Now, what's cool about this is it's going to shut off the signal from your back. It's just a diversion trick. It's all, this is neuromuscular stuff. So if you're feeling your back come on and you don't have time to go through the whole ball sequence, just grab a block and a belt or a pillow or a roll of toilet paper, something, and just start squeezing. I mean, you could be sitting up in your car driving and like, oh, my back is killing me. Is there something? Oh, look at that. Boom. Got a roll of toilet paper in my car. I'm going to squeeze my knees. Then I'm going to take my belt off while I'm driving. Maybe not. And I'm going to press. And even just those two will be enough to re-educate. It'll be enough to divert pain. So you can get yourself, you can be preemptive about it. So as you're feeling a sore back come on, whether you're at work or you're driving in your car, you can take care of that pain with a little bit of movement. And really, it's not movement. You notice you're not moving. It's an isometric, but your nervous system thinks that those muscles are actually causing movement. And again, this is all about tricking the nervous system, tricking the brain. And it's really effective stuff. All right. So
one question.
Yes.
Everyone is raving about your belt that you're using. Where did you get it?
You don't want a belt like this. I got this belt when I got my hip replaced last April. This came with, well, that's not true. You want a belt like this. This is a good belt. We have a drugstore here called McCann's. McCann's carries things like walkers and, some of the higher end therapy tools that you're not going to find at Walgreens. Walgreens might have something like this. This is just a waist belt, a waist strap. It's made by Posey. And this thing is excellent. It's fast, it's thick, and it's comfortable. Sometimes something like a yoga strap, they're pretty stiff to begin with. Stiff, and then they're a little thin. This can bite into the skin and cause another level of discomfort. I mean, you suck it up, right? you probably can, but this is a great belt.
Last question. Someone is saying that they're getting Charlie horses from all the, I'm guessing all the stuff that we've done. Any recommendations?
So Charlie horses, they are going to occur. Now, what I would recommend is a little bit of adjustment, little positional adjustment to try and mitigate that problem. When I'm laying on my stomach, I might place a pillow under my tummy, all right, to give myself a little bit of like pelvic support, just something enough to raise that butt up high, and then getting your heels closer to your butt isn't going to be that much of a trick. This is another thing. If your feet are too far away from your butt, always remember your butt's your target. If your feet are too far away from your butt, you're probably going to get cramps in your hamstrings. All right. So I don't know where the cramps are occurring from the person who asked the question, but bring the heels closer to the butt and you can alleviate a lot of that.
Hamstrings. Sorry, I should have said hamstrings.
Was it hamstring?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So heels close to butt. Anybody else? Oh, an inversion table. I only see a couple words of that question.
Do you want me to state it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just got an inversion table out of frustration and desperation. Haven't used it yet. How do you feel about using the table for low back pain?
I love inversion. I love it. But you, again, I wish a lot of these things came with directions, like real good, solid advice, but most of them don't. You kind of, you run blindly through this stuff. An inversion table, instead of being vertical, I want you at 60 degrees. 60 degrees, and that's an approximation. You don't have to be right on the money, but 60 degrees, for one, is going to take pressure off the ankles and the knees when you're hanging vertical. So if, let's say you're hanging vertical and your ankles and your knees are killing you, do you think that you're going to get any benefit in the low back? You're not, because your body's guarding because it feels pain in the knees and in the ankles. So you drop that table to about 60 degrees. And what's really cool is if you put a kettlebell on the floor, so when you flip down, you can reach up and grab a hold of that bell overhead. Now you're getting traction through the entire length of the spine, as well as the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So I like inversion tables. I wouldn't do it more than 4 minutes a run, though. You can do it 4 minutes a run. You can do it all day long, though, but just don't do it more than 4 minutes at a time, because blood rushes to the head and it can cause problems. And I fell asleep once in an inversion table upside down. And my wife at the time, I'm glad she was there, because she came and woke me up, and man, my eyes, all the blood vessels broke in my eyes. And I had a nasty headache that took days to get rid of. And that's the kind of danger you play with inversion. So 4 minutes at a time.
Someone also asked about a Pilates ring.
Yes, Pilates rings. So you're talking about the type that you compress or you pull, you place it in between the legs. Is that what we're referring to?
Let's see what she said. Yes, that's what she says. Yes.
Okay. So I like them, but for the application that we just used, there's too much give. I want frustration to build surrounding the nervous system. I want your brain to get frustrated because there's no movement here, but there's muscle activity. And that's the key to overloading the nervous system. So if there's movement, now it's exercise. All right. We don't want movement. We just want muscle facilitation.
Cool.
Yeah. So who's our pelvic floor person?
There's a couple of them.
Okay. I'm going to show you a quickie. I'll be right back. One of these. I don't know if all of you out there have an exercise ball, but if you don't, I recommend you get one. It's a versatile piece of equipment. And if nothing else, you can sit on this thing and correct your posture, because just by sitting on a ball, it activates your core. It's really hard to slouch when you sit on a ball. So if you use it at your desk, or you use it to watch TV, or you use it for exercise, get a ball. But to my point, pelvic floor. So what I'm going to do, and you should be able to, you can't see me from the side, but I'm going to talk you through it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push this ball all the way back to the wall. And I'm going to back into it till my butt touches. I'm going to set my hands directly under my shoulders. And I'm going to draw my belly button up, and then I'm going to push back into that ball and try to flatten it for 5 seconds. And then I relax and I come forward and repeat. And I would do that until, numbers are arbitrary, honestly. So there's no magic number like 3 sets of 10 or 2 sets of 30. Those are all great, but what I'm looking for is I'm looking for feeling. I want to feel what I'm after. So if you do 2 of those ball busters, that's what that's called for the pelvic floor. If you do 2 ball busters and you feel your pelvic floor, you should feel it pull up. What's going to happen is it's almost like you're going to feel this kind of reaction or response. So you're really going to feel your midsection tighten up. Go for a feel. If it takes 50 of them, do 50, but there's no magic number. Pelvic floor, that's a big deal. I got other tricks, but that's probably the easiest one.
You're changing lives, Michael. Everyone is commenting on how much they are learning in the last hour or so. And I understand we are at the top of a new hour. If you have to hop off, feel free. But I know, Michael, I believe you have some more stuff that you're willing to share or wanting to share.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm always looking to share. How many of you have Theraguns or massage guns? Any of you out there have massage guns?
Ooh, we are, yeah, 6 people raised their hand. So yes.
Okay. So I'm going to grab mine and I'm going to give you guys a quick lesson on how to use it the right way. During the pandemic, the Theragun, not in brand, but the percussor, was one of the biggest trends out there. People bought these like crazy because, you're spending time at home. You have aches and pains. Maybe you couldn't get in to see the doctor because of restrictions, whatever the case. There was a run on Theraguns. And again, this is one of those devices that doesn't come with directions. And people think, well, it's got an on button. I'm just going to put it in the middle of my sore muscle and beat it up. I'm going to beat it into submission. That's not a good way to do it. What typically happens is, this might feel good for a couple minutes, but you're going to reach a point of diminishing return where now you're just going to be pounding a bruise into into the tissue. So the right way to use something like this is determine the muscle, and I'm going to use the bicep because it's really easy. Everybody can see their bicep. It gives you feedback right away as well. So the bicep, we know it connects at the elbow, right? We also know it connects at the shoulder. Okay, so I'm gonna dumb this down as much as I can. Remember what I said earlier, the insertion is where the action occurs at the muscle, right? The bicep. So my action is this, bending my arm, right? It's pulling my knuckles towards my shoulder. So what I want to do is I want to go at my insertion point because let's say I have bicep tendonitis. Bicep tendonitis shows up in the shoulder, or tendinosis. This is a very common injury. You get a hot spot up here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm going to go to insertion. Now the bicep has two targets. There's my medial and my lateral. So I'm going to go on my medial and I'm going to do a range of motion appropriate for that muscle. 5 to 8 times. And then you stop and you just have faith that what you did worked. Now I'm going to go to the other one. So I'm on the long head. This is the short head. I'm on the long head now. Same deal. Now I'm not pressing into it. I don't want to drill for oil. All I want to do is just upset. I want to irritate my nervous system because I'm trying to prevent this muscle from actually doing its action. So I'm beating it up where it inserts at the joint that the action occurs. So 5 to 8 goes, and that's what you do. Now let's say the pec. We know the pec starts at the sternum and it attaches through the shoulder. This is where my pec insertion is because that's where my action occurs, right? I don't have any action here, at least I better not. So this is my insertion. So what I'll do, if I have a tight pec, which if you sit at a desk for a job, you have tight pecs. That's just the way it works. So if you have upper back pain, you have neck pain, go after this spot right here. So this is good. This is a nice pearl to hang on to. So I'm going to go right where that pec meets at the upper bicep, and I'm going to do a bench press, a pretend bench press, 5 to 8 passes. And again, you want to stop and just have faith that it worked.
Yeah, everyone's loving the Theragun. Someone asked about trapezius and thigh, hamstring, or calf, something in the lower limb with the Theragun.
Yes. So trapezius, right? That's what our traps do. Draws the shoulders up to the ears. Okay, so where does it occur? Where's the action? Is it at the neck or is it at the shoulders? I'm going to tell you. So it's a fairly, with this gun, it's not that easy to get to, but if you have a gun with a handle on it, a little easier. So I'm just going to go right on that spot and I'm going to shrug. If it's my hamstring, the action of my hamstring occurs at my knee, right? I straighten and bend. So I'm going to go right just north of my knee bend and extend. Ooh, I didn't know I needed this. 5 to 8 passes, you're good. Now for the quad, my action occurs at the knee, and I have 4 heads to deal with across my quad, so I can just work my way across and know that I'm going to hit the right spot. So right now, the muscle is lengthened. Now it's shortened. I'm on my lateralis right now. And that's really, it's determine the muscle you're going after. That's one. Two, figure out what that muscle does and where the action occurs. The major joint that is responsible for that movement. Three, set your gun there and start going through that range of motion. Go slow. The faster you go, the more agitated your nervous system gets, the more heightened it gets. So you're going to get the opposite effect of what you're after.
And that kind of goes off with the question we just got is how high to go with the gun. I'm guessing maybe intensity. I know you don't want pain, but do you want to try to go for higher output or stay low? What's your take?
My gun has 3 speeds. This is the one I operate on, the low speed. A low speed will force a muscle to relax. A high speed will turn a muscle on. So mine never goes to speed number 3. I might go to number 2, but only if I'm penetrating through a couple different layers of muscle to get down to the one I'm after. That might be the only time I dial up the intensity on my gun. But typically I keep it at a 1. I keep it low because you want that, you want a rhythm that you want to pick up on that rhythm. Your body wants to pick up on that rhythm, even though it's going blah, 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 and maybe you can't actually find it or put a metronome to it, but your body can, your nervous system can.
I think we're going to have to do a Theragun class as our next one, Michael. I have so many good questions.
Theragun bomb, but it's also, it can hurt you too.
Right. One last question on Theragun, and then we'll kind of wrap up that segment is someone asked about like low back, specifically low back for the Theragun. What is a safe place to put that?
So you know how I had you put to put your ball on the QL? Same deal. Put your Theragun on that QL. And what the QL does is it hikes the hip towards the shoulder. That's the action. What I'm really looking to do is create space from this point to this point. And I can do that even though the action is to lift that hip. I can do it by bending forward. I'm still going to lengthen that muscle. So I'm going to place that Theragun just off my spine. Now, you really got to be careful being around your spine with this thing because this will knock you out of alignment for sure. So kind of sneak in till you find the hot spot and then do a forward bend and come up, reapply, come up, reapply. So this took the place of my ball. You can do that with a piriformis. You can do it with the glute med as well. I mean, honestly, there's no muscle that can escape the Theragun, but maybe it can escape you because you can't reach. So you might need a partner to help you out.
Let's see. I have a stimulant machine in my lower back, so someone has a stimulator. Should I not use this, or what's your take on a stimulator and the Theragun?
So that's a good question. If the speed's low, you should be fine. I say should. I don't know what your stimulator is for. I assume that it's to calm nerves down when they get heightened. And then boom, you get that nerve stimulator and it overstimulates and shuts it down out of exhaustion. That's kind of that's typically how I know them to function. So this is really doing the same sort of thing. So as long as you're not on top of the stimulator itself, I mean, you can be on a lead to a muscle and not affect it at all, but don't be on the stimulator itself.
And someone asked, not necessarily a Theragun question, but will creating more strength in the abdomen help to alleviate the QL heavy work?
It will. So core strength has been a hot topic for 20 years now. In fact, I get sick and tired of hearing about core strength because there's a misconception about it. But core strength really is made up of 12 muscles. It's not just your abs. So if all you did was go after core strength to get rid of low back pain by doing crunches, you might be exacerbating the problem. What you really need to do is you need to look at this entire girdle, not just the abdomen, but everything from basically the belly button to about L5 down to the upper 2/3 or the upper third of your quad. So this is what makes up your core, honestly. So that means if you want to get rid of back pain, you got to go after your glutes, especially your hips, your abs. We have 4 layers of abdominal muscle. We have transverse, we have rectus, we have internal and external obliques. And all of those muscles have different functions, but they all act as stability. That's a common shared focus for all of them. So you want your midsection to be shrink wrapped. So that means you can't just expect that this kind of motion is going to get you there. You got to do this. You got to do this. I mean, there's a lot more to it than just sitting on the floor and banging out crunches. In fact, that would be the last thing I would ask you to do if you came to me to increase your core strength. But ab strength is definitely a big player in low back health.
Someone asked this a couple times, so just want to make sure it gets answered. What are your thoughts on home traction devices?
What do I think of home traction devices?
Yes.
Well, I mean, an inversion table is a home traction device, and I like it. I can't think of much more other than neck traction, and I'm not a big fan of neck traction. I think you can reestablish the curve in your neck through other means rather than just pulling on the vertebra. Now, one thing you do get when you pull on a vertebra or when you traction is you get an expansion of that disc. Now it's micro. It's hardly noticeable. You won't feel it. I hope you don't feel it anyway. But what happens is when that expansion occurs, that cavity empties out it makes space for a little more fluid to come in. So when you traction, you open up those discs and more fluid comes in. And then when you get out of traction, they compress and the fluid goes out. So what you get out of that is you get great circulatory pattern. So traction is amazing. Plus, anytime you can unload a joint that's irritated, you're gonna be a step down the progress road.
Thank you for that. There's so many great questions, and you guys are asking so many awesome questions. And I know we could spend all day here, which means that, Michael, good news, we're going to bring you back at some point. Let's just do a couple more, or I guess I should ask you, how are you doing on time?
Good. I have a 4:50 or a 4:30 client, so I have about 15 minutes, and it's really no big deal.
Awesome. I do want to let everybody know that I will be providing Michael's email address. So if you want to, some of you have asked personal questions about your personal things that are going on with some injuries or some limitations or some mobility issues that are coming on. You're going to get his email address and you can ask him all the personal questions you want specifically, and he'll address those. So just want to put that out there. If there's any questions that come up personally, just hang tight, and I'm going to be asking some kind of more broader questions for the next like 5 minutes or so. Give you a little bit of break before you see your 4:30 client. The last couple of questions that I see come through is, let's see, someone asked, what's a good exercise for cramps in the legs?
Cramps in the leg. Can you be more specific?
Yeah, I whoever asked that question, if you're still around, if you could be more specific, what's a good exercise for cramps in the leg, that would be great. I'll go ahead to the next question. What's your recommendations to improve posture?
That's great. That's a great question. You're going to improve your posture for one by releasing that psoas, and you're going to feel it. Okay. But that's just the lower half of your posture. Now we want to go after the upper half, which is where most of America suffers. And that is a rounded shoulder posture. So you've got that hunchback. That means your shoulder blades have separated. You need to strengthen the rhomboids, which pull the shoulder blades together. So what happens is this: the shoulders get pulled back, and if you've been going after this, if you know what rhomboids are and you're doing a rhomboid exercise, cat cow. If you know what cat cow is, that's a really good exercise. You know what? I'm going to show you one right now. And I'm going to turn to the side just a little bit so you can get an idea of what I'm doing from a side view. Now I'm going to start with my palms up and my thumbs back. My chin is up, my chest is high. I'm going to keep my elbows into my body, and I'm just going to rotate my palms down like this. When I do that, I'm going to drop my chin and round my upper back. So I'm going to turn myself into a C. And then I'm going to open up, and I'm going to turn myself into a U. C. Just doing that is a neurological reeducation trick. So you're not building anything. All you're doing is you're just reactivating what you have, which is your rhomboids and your low lats. And the tighter you keep those elbows into the side, the more you fire your lats. That's a run and gun trick right there, and that's super slick, especially if you're sitting at a desk and you just slip forward in your chair, so you got a little room to move. Round, pinch, round, pinch. When I say pinch, I'm pinching my shoulder blades together.
That was awesome. To clarify the question, she asked sharp pain in the lower leg. I think it was
Like
here. Sharp aching pain in the lower leg. What would you do for that?
app. I would like to know some detail on that.
Okay.
A little more than that.
Let's
So,
I would say maybe you two guys could connect offline.
yeah,
So
let's do
the
that.
warrior who asked that, I'll give you again Michael's email address. You can address, kind of go into a little bit more detail of what you're looking for. Last couple questions here before we wrap up. The TENS machine, TENES, is that good or bad for muscles?
Great. TENS is great. TENS works same principle that we've been covering this entire time, and that is fatiguing or overloading the nervous system. So it's just taking a muscle to a fatigue point, and then it shuts down. And that's what a TENS unit does. Now you get that overstimulation at first, and then you'll notice that the further into a TENS cycle you go, that contraction starts to soften and maybe even dampen and go away completely. And that just means that you've accomplished what you're after. Man, I've worn a TENS unit all day long on my back, and because it was about the only thing I could do to keep my back from going into spasm. We all have moments like that.
No, that was brief. Perfect explanation. The last question that I will ask you, and we'll wrap up here, is do you recommend a TENS unit in the lower back and other muscles to help relieve pain?
Absolutely. And the right way to put on a TENS unit is to cross leads. Now, what that means is you have two wires that plug into the unit, and then you have two that split off those wires that plug in. So I'm going to use my hip. So I've got pain here in my glute med. All right. So I want to take one lead. So I've got a pad here and a pad here. I'm going to put one here, and then I'm going to put one on the front of my hip. And then my other lead, I'm going to put one down here, and I'm going to put one up here. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a box, and I want an X to mark that spot. All right. Now, X just means I have two leads here that are on the same line and two leads here that are on the same line. So I'm forming an X. I'm creating this box, or I'm encapsulating the entire musculature that I want to go after for the TENS unit. And what it does is as long as those muscles are connected, which they probably are. I mean, honestly, my toe is connected to my jaw. And I mean, that's a long drawn out story, but that's just an example. I want to capture as much as I can to make sure that I get the guilty party.
That was perfect. So many positive things. No, you and I will have to connect offline, and I'll go ahead and remove this pin here so that it's the both of us again. But thank you for hopping on, for explaining everything. Someone just made a comment saying it was a perfect balance of explanation as well as showing. You're very thorough. So I felt that way, and I'm glad you guys feel that way too. But yeah, before we hop off, any other lasting words, Michael?
Go to my Instagram page, mskog. I have, I don't know, 40 videos for specific spots on the body that you're having pain with. And this is all stuff that you can home care. So it's not necessary to go see a practitioner, and I might save you a couple bucks from going and seeing somebody or standing in line anyway. But I have a lot of videos that are demonstrated as well as illustrated, and will help you with your pain mitigation as well as your recovery road.
Awesome. mskog. mskog on social media. You're also on Facebook too. Someone just said they found you on Facebook.
I deactivated my Facebook account about 4 months ago, and I never looked back.
It's probably a good thing. mskog. So M, again, I will put all of this in the email, but I'll type it out here. Someone asked, do you have YouTube?
Do I have YouTube? I do. I don't have much on there now, but I'm going to be uploading a lot more. In fact, I'm not sure if this recorded, but I will upload this as well. I think it did. I don't know if my camera angle was great or not, but we'll see. But I'm going to start dumping stuff on my YouTube channel.
Maybe you can send that to me. I don't know, or I can just find you easily on YouTube and kind of add you in the email for everybody to look up. Pretty easy.
Yeah, it's easy.
Okay. No. Go ahead, stop recording.